When we all began, we were all part of God. This beautiful light, this huge energy, total love, we all began there.
Have you ever woken up and wondered, how did I end up here? As if your life, your job, even your body were chosen for you without your say, like you were dropped into the middle of a story already in motion, expected to play a role you never agreed to. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if your soul chose this exact life, every challenge, every joy, every heartbreak, with purpose? What if none of it was random or a mistake, but part of a deeper design? Not a punishment, but a mission. Think in terms of vibration. Nikola Tesla once said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. But what most people don't know is that Tesla believed the human soul worked the same way. To him, the soul wasn't just a ghostly presence. It was a generator, a beacon, a blueprint made of light and vibration that chooses where and when it will appear based on the kind of growth it seeks. The soul isn't random. It's electric, and it's drawn to what will charge it most. There's an ancient idea in many traditions that echoes this. In Hindu philosophy, there is a concept called sankalpa, a deep vow made by the soul before it takes form. Not a surface-level wish like, I want to be rich, or I want to be famous, but a silent promise like, I want to learn compassion, or I want to heal others by healing myself. Sometimes that promise is made through lifetimes, carried like a seed from one body to the next, until it blooms. In Kabbalah, it's said that souls fall into the world of form to rectify what has been left unbalanced, not to be punished, but to bring harmony. That means your hardest moments may actually be your most sacred. So take a breath and look at your life again. Not through the eyes of the ego, which wants comfort and success right now, but through the eyes of your soul, which is playing the long game. What if the delays were lessons in trust? What if the heartbreaks were initiations into deeper love? What if the weird job you hated was the very place you were meant to remember something important about who you are? The soul doesn't choose easily. It chooses true. Tesla was fascinated by frequency. He said the Earth itself hummed at a vibration, what we now call the Schumann resonance, and believed that by syncing with it, we could unlock incredible energy. Now imagine your soul syncing in the same way, aligning itself with the exact conditions it needed to evolve. Maybe you were born into poverty, not because you were cursed, but because your soul needed to remember its own worth beyond material things. Maybe you were born to parents who couldn't love you the way you needed, because your soul came here to learn how to give that love to yourself first. Painful, absolutely, but also precise. Your memory could be intact. There's a story in Zen Buddhism about a monk who walks into a village and sees a child suffering. The monk begins to cry. A student nearby asks, "Master, why do you weep? Don't you always say suffering is an illusion?" The master replies, "Yes, but compassion is not." The soul doesn't just come here to watch the world like a distant star. It comes to feel it, to taste the bitter and the sweet, to move through the illusion not with cold detachment, but with the fire of awakening. If you've ever felt like an outsider, it might be because your soul came here with memories still intact. Some people walk through life half asleep, but others carry this quiet ache, like homesickness for a place they've never seen. If you're one of those people, this text is for you. You didn't come here to fit in. You came here to remember, and that remembering is what unlocks your power. Tesla himself was deeply alone, misunderstood, mocked. Yet he never abandoned the invisible world he believed in. He claimed he could hear frequencies others couldn't, see patterns in light, even communicate with intelligences beyond Earth. While most laughed, he kept working. Why? Because his soul chose the mission, and somewhere, deep down, he knew, just like you know, even if you've buried it, even if the world told you to stop dreaming and start settling. But the soul does not settle, it expands. And when you start listening to the deeper pull inside you, the one that whispers when you're quiet, the one that sends chills down your spine when you hear something true, that's when life starts to rearrange itself. Things that felt heavy start to move. People fall away or come closer, all to support the real you, not the mask. And slowly, you start to feel something strange, like you're in the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing, even if it doesn't make sense on paper. This is the beginning of your return to alignment. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start wondering, "What did I come here to do with this?" That question will open doors. It will shift your energy. It will attract answers, mentors, signs and opportunities you never could have planned. That's what happens when you stop living from fear and start living from frequency. When you stop acting like a victim of life and start showing up like the soul that chose it. This will lead you to notice how there are moments in life that feel too perfect to be accidents. Serendipitous souls. A stranger says something that answers the very question you've been wrestling with. A song plays at just the right time. You meet someone who changes everything. These are more than coincidences. They are echoes of a design far older than your mind can understand. In spiritual teachings, these moments are called synchronicities, and they often reveal the secret architecture of your life, your soul contract. Before you were born, something in you knew, something agreed. According to many mystical traditions, from ancient Hinduism to modern energy healers, the soul chooses its path before arriving in the body. This doesn't mean everything is set in stone or that your life is one long script you're forced to follow. It means your soul came here with a pattern in mind, a song it wished to hum through your choices, your lessons, your encounters. In this way, life becomes less about control and more about remembering, less about forcing, more about allowing. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and mystic thinker, often spoke of synchronicity as meaningful coincidence. He believed that there was a mysterious connection between your inner world and outer events, and that sometimes life itself responded to the language of your soul. He gave an example of a patient describing a dream of a golden scarab beetle, and just as she was speaking, a similar beetle tapped on the window. Jung opened it, brought the beetle in, and showed it to her, an external mirror of her inner transformation. It was not just strange, it was sacred. In this way, synchronicities are not random. They are gentle reminders that your life is part of a larger spiritual map. You might not remember drawing it, but your soul did. And just like a compass needle finds north, synchronicity finds you when you're moving in alignment with your soul's deeper path. These moments may seem small, an unexpected phone call, a book falling off a shelf, an intuitive pull to go somewhere, but they are the stitches in the invisible fabric that binds this life to the life before it. The idea of soul contracts comes from many traditions. In the Akashic records, for example, every soul's journey is written like a story held in an etheric library. These records speak of agreements made before birth, who you will meet, what major lessons you'll face, even what gifts you'll unlock when the timing is right. Sometimes the people who challenge you the most were once beings of deep love in the in-between space before incarnation. Their role here may be painful, but from a higher view, it is sacred. Not all who hurt you are enemies. Some are teachers, some are mirrors. This is echoed in the work of a mystic who rarely gets talked about outside spiritual circles, Emanuel Swedenborg. He lived in the 1700s and claimed to have explored the spiritual realms while still alive, speaking to angels, spirits, and souls who had passed. According to him, souls don't fall randomly into life. They slide into places where their essence can grow. Even suffering, he said, has a divine use, bending the soul toward light. It doesn't mean we need to seek out pain, but it means we can find meaning in it. If we look closely, the same patterns that wound us also lead us to our purpose. Think back on your own life. Who have you met that felt familiar, even from the first hello? What places made your chest tighten or your breath catch without explanation? What obstacles made you stronger, even if they almost broke you? These aren't just parts of a personal story, they are signals from your soul contract, marking important points on your path like stars in a constellation. What's more powerful is that the more you recognize this design, the more you feel it. When you begin to trust in the soul's agreement, life changes. You stop chasing, you begin listening. You stop asking why things happen to you and start asking what they're trying to reveal. You become less afraid of endings because you understand they were already written into your map, and they always lead to something greater if you walk with awareness. Tune to the frequency of your soul. This isn't about being passive. It's about becoming so tuned in to the frequency of your own soul that you can sense when something or someone is meant for you. It's about waking up to the signs that are always around you, a street name, a color, a phrase someone repeats. Life is always speaking. It doesn't shout, it whispers. This is the real reason so many mystics throughout history chose solitude or silence. Not because they were escaping the world, but because they knew that when you quiet the mind, you can hear the design again. You can feel the contract. You can sense the yes that your soul gave long before this body was born. Nikola Tesla himself believed in something similar. He said, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration." Tesla knew that inspiration did not come from him. It came through him. He was a vessel. He didn't need to own the genius. He simply had to tune into it. This is how soul contracts work. When you're aligned with your deeper agreement, ideas, people, and help come not through force, but through flow. So, the next time something strange happens, the kind of moment that makes your heart pause or your breath deepen, don't brush it off. Don't call it random. Let it touch you. Let it remind you. You're not just wandering, you're remembering. You're following the invisible lines drawn by a version of you who already knows how this story unfolds. And the beautiful thing is, even if you forget your contract, life remembers. Even when you take a detour, the map remains. And at just the right moment, through a stranger, a dream, a delay, or a whisper, it finds you again. The One, infinite source of love. To understand this, let's talk about a philosopher who understood the mystery of choice and destiny in ways few others ever have, Plotinus. He lived in the 3rd century, and though his name isn't shouted as loudly as Plato's or Aristotle's, his ideas go just as deep. Plotinus believed that our souls came from a place he called the One, an infinite source of love, light, and being. But in order to grow, the soul needed to experience separation, to move through the world of form, time, and matter. The soul didn't fall, it chose to descend, to explore. It chose this life not as punishment, but as a kind of sacred journey. Every challenge, every person, every twist in the story, it's all part of that descent, and eventually that return. This idea is echoed in many traditions. In Hinduism, there's the concept of Leela, the divine play. Life isn't a prison, it's a stage. The soul, like an actor, plays its role fully, but never forgets that it's just a role, and when the curtain falls, it returns to its true essence. The same is found in the Kabbalistic idea of tikkun, where each soul has a specific repair it's meant to make in this world. And that repair isn't random, it's chosen. The family you were born into, the struggles you face, the strange coincidences that feel too perfect to be chance. They're all part of your soul's blueprint. But how does this connect to Tesla? Because Tesla believed in frequency, energy and vibration, not just as physical forces, but as spiritual ones. If our soul is energy, and it is, then that energy follows a frequency. And when you meet someone who changes your life, or face a situation that cracks your heart open, it's not an accident. It's a matching frequency. It's your soul aligning with what it chose long ago. Synchronicity is what happens when your soul contract echoes through time. You might feel like you're walking through life blindfolded, unsure of where to go next. But every now and then, you hear a bell in the distance, a feeling, a knowing. That's your soul reminding you you're still on the path. Even if your human mind has no idea what's going on, your deeper self does. It always has. Carl Jung, who coined the term synchronicity, believed that these events were not mere chance. He saw them as meaningful patterns, messages from the deeper parts of the psyche, or even from what he called the collective unconscious. But what if those messages are also from your soul, gently nudging you back into the flow of your contract? What if that moment of déjà vu, or that dream that seemed too real, was your higher self reminding you, you chose this, keep going? The tricky part is that soul contracts rarely make sense when you're living them. They're messy, they're emotional. They pull you toward things you can't explain and away from things you thought you wanted. But every time you listen to that quiet pull, every time you surrender instead of forcing, you step deeper into the design. And the more you align, the more synchronicities show up, little nods from the universe saying, yes, this is it. Keep trusting. Tesla knew the music of life. Let's go back to the beginning, before the name you now carry, before you ever opened your eyes for the first time. Your soul wasn't thrown into this life randomly. It aligned with a frequency, not just any frequency, one that matched the lessons, the gifts, and the very path your soul needed for its own growth. In spiritual teachings, this is often called your soul contract, but Tesla may have called it something else entirely. A resonance, a match between the rhythm of your soul and the rhythm of the life you now live. He believed everything vibrated, and that includes your soul. Now, if everything vibrates, every thought, every desire, every person, then your entire reality is a living, breathing field of frequency. Your soul didn't choose this life based on words or logic. It chose this life because the vibration fit. The people you meet, the moments that feel like déjà vu, the wild detours that somehow bring you back home, none of it is random. It's resonance. And when you start paying attention to the energy behind things instead of the surface story, you begin to decode the language your soul understands best. This is where many mystics, especially in Eastern traditions, speak of the concept of Nada Brahma. The world is sound. In Hindu cosmology, sound is not just a way of communicating, but the very root of creation. In the Bible too, in the beginning was the Word. Word, sound, vibration, all pointing to the same thing. The idea that reality is born from and shaped by frequency. So if the world is vibration and your soul is vibration, then Tesla was telling us, your soul chose the music of this life. You came here not just to survive it, but to dance with it. Still, there are days when that's hard to believe, when things fall apart, when relationships break down, when you're left wondering if you took a wrong turn somewhere. But even those moments are frequencies. Pain has a vibration. So does joy. So does fear. None of them are wrong. They're just energies you get to meet and learn from. You weren't sent here to avoid these vibrations. You came to experience them, grow through them, and eventually rise above them. And here's something Tesla would have likely agreed with. You don't raise your vibration by pretending. You don't get to a higher frequency by faking happiness or pushing away the hard emotions. You get there by meeting each vibration honestly, fully, without running from it. Just like a musical instrument that can't produce a true note unless every string is tuned, your soul can't step into its next level until you've faced the frequencies you've been avoiding. Face yourself. This is where many spiritual teachers, from Rumi to Carl Jung, align. Jung spoke of shadow integration, the idea that to become whole, you must face the parts of yourself you've disowned. Not because they're bad, but because they hold keys to your vibration. Tesla's wisdom adds another layer. Not only do you face these parts, but you shift how you vibrate with them. You learn to resonate differently. Imagine a tuning fork. It doesn't shout or push. It simply vibrates. And that pure vibration causes other forks to sing without even touching them. That's how your energy works when you stop forcing and start aligning. You don't chase the life you want. You become the frequency of it. And then it finds you, not because you begged for it, but because you matched it. That's the hidden beauty in Tesla's words. You aren't here to control every piece of your life. You're here to tune into it. And when you do, you'll see that the job, the relationship, the healing, it all begins to show up, almost like magic. Not because you pushed, but because you listened. You vibrated higher. You met your soul halfway. So the next time life feels too loud or too still, ask yourself, what is the vibration behind this moment? What frequency am I carrying, and what am I resonating with in return? These aren't questions to fix your life. They're invitations to finally feel it, to step into your soul's design with open eyes and open energy. And that is what Tesla was really whispering to us through his inventions, his writings, and even his silence. You don't have to control anything. You weren't dropped here by chance. You were drawn here by resonance. Alan Watts once said, "You are not a stranger in this world. You didn't come into it, you came out of it. Just like waves arise from the ocean, you arose from the great ocean of consciousness. You are not separate from this design. You are the design, remembering itself. This is not about sitting back and waiting. It's about aligning. When your inner vibration matches the frequency of what your soul chose, the path clears. Doors open. The people you were meant to meet appear. And oddly enough, it doesn't feel like effort. It feels like recognition, like coming home. There's a story in Buddhist teachings that describes how a soul before birth is shown glimpses of the life ahead, the challenges, the joys, the people who will shape it. And the soul agrees, not because it knows how everything will turn out, but because it feels the pull. It recognizes the frequency. It says, yes, that is the life that will wake me up. Tesla might not have spoken of souls, but he understood vibration better than most. And in that understanding lies a deeper truth, that everything you experience is vibrating at a frequency that once matched the intention of your soul. Even the pain, even the confusion, they're not detours, they're recalibrations, nudges from the universe asking, are you still in tune? When you pause, even for a moment, and quiet the noise, you can feel it, that hum beneath your thoughts, the soft pull towards something you can't quite name, but know is real. That's your soul's frequency, and when you follow it, when you live by it, You stop forcing life and start flowing with it. You don't have to control everything, you just have to remember who you are and the frequency you came in on. To begin softening the layers that cover our deepest truths, we must first see karma not as punishment, but as a teacher. Karma doesn't circle us endlessly to make us suffer. It returns so that we may remember, so that we may get it right. When patterns resurface, when similar faces and familiar struggles cross our path again, it's not because we failed, it's because we're being given another chance to respond differently. And when we do, even in the smallest way, it begins. A moment of honesty when it would be easier to lie, a choice to offer kindness instead of bitterness, a flash of clarity that cuts through confusion. These are not minor. Each act becomes a chisel, gently tapping away at the illusion that we are alone, that we are separate, or that we must carry the weight of our past forever. In this sacred chipping away, something beautiful happens. The soul stops simply reacting, it begins to remember. It starts to recognize its own light underneath the layers. And in this remembering, there is no need to escape the cycle. Because the moment the soul awakens to its own eternal nature, the cycle begins to loosen its grip. Liberation does not arrive like a golden trophy at the end of lifetimes stacked in spiritual success. Liberation comes quietly, like a breeze that no longer needs permission to blow. It comes when the soul finally sees that it was never bound to begin with. When you understand that karma refines rather than punishes, you stop fearing it. You see that the so-called mistakes of your past were never flaws. They were fires that burned away what you are not. And you begin to meet your life with a deeper stillness. You stop running. You stop chasing. You begin to notice. That noticing is where the true work begins. We often ask, is there an end to all this? Will the soul ever stop returning? But maybe the better question is, what happens when the soul finally chooses to stay fully awake within the life it already chose? Because the point was never to escape. The point was to wake up, right here, right now. In that waking, liberation begins, not as a final destination, but as the realization that you have always been free. The path to enlightenment, then, is not about becoming something more. It's about remembering what you've always been, and in remembering, you will see that every person who hurt you was part of the design, every dream that shattered only cleared space, and every twist of fate was pointing you home. The veil begins to fall away, and the soul, no longer asleep in the cycle, steps forward, not with force, but with quiet power. And in that power, karma no longer pulls. It dances, it softens, it serves. You don't have to wait for another lifetime. You don't have to become someone new. You simply have to see clearly. The rest will unfold like it was always meant to. The mirror of karma. They say the soul comes back again and again, not to suffer, not to be punished, but to grow, to learn, and to remember. In many teachings, karma isn't a cosmic sentence. It's a mirror, a gentle, persistent teacher. And to begin unraveling the knots of karma, we must stop seeing life as a series of mistakes and instead view it as a sacred spiral of becoming. Each lifetime, each moment, each person we encounter is part of this spiral. Native American wisdom often speaks of the sacred circle. Everything moves in cycles, day and night, the seasons, the rising and falling of nations, the beating of our hearts. This belief teaches that life is not linear. It is a circle. We return again and again, not because we are lost, but because we are being refined. To the Lakota and other tribes, the sacred hoop represents not just the world, but the soul's journey within it. In this circle, all beings are equal. The rock, the eagle, the wind, the human, all are spirits, and all are connected. The wheel turns, not because we're trapped, but because we are being polished like river stones. Each round softens us, teaches us, shapes us. And within this wheel, nothing is wasted. Every experience, no matter how small or painful, becomes a gift once it is seen through the eyes of spirit. Karma, then, is not a punishment. It is a pathway. It brings us back not to hurt us, but to awaken us. And every small act of kindness, every moment of clarity, every time we choose love over fear, we chip away at the illusion of being separate. That illusion that we are alone, that we are cut off from the divine, is the real weight we carry. And once we begin to see through it, something incredible happens. The soul doesn't just evolve, it starts to awaken, slowly at first, then with a brightness that can't be ignored. And that awakening is what finally begins to break the cycle. In the Hopi tradition, there is a word, koyaniskatsi, which means life out of balance. When people live disconnected from nature, from their spirit, from their inner knowing, they fall out of rhythm, out of harmony. The soul feels this. It aches for balance, for rhythm, for remembrance. And so it returns, life after life, moment after moment, calling us back to the song we once knew. But the goal is not to escape the cycle. That's a misunderstanding of the path. In many ancient traditions, including native ones, liberation doesn't mean running away from the world. It means waking up within it, seeing clearly, feeling fully, walking the earth as a sacred being, not above it, but as part of it. The enlightened soul doesn't leave the world. It becomes one with it. A tree is no longer just a tree. A stranger is no longer a stranger. The river is your blood. The sky is your breath. There's a parable told by some elders. A child, before being born, stands with the Great Spirit. The child says, "Send me to earth. Let me remember who I am." The Great Spirit agrees, but says, "You will forget. You will feel fear, loss, and confusion. But I will leave signs, people, dreams, symbols. And one day you will remember again." And so the child is born, and the forgetting begins. But so does the journey. Many of us are still in that forgetting, but something stirs in the heart, a memory that doesn't quite have words, a pull towards something sacred, even if we don't know what it is. That is the soul, waking up. And every time we act with courage instead of fear, every time we choose compassion instead of control, we remember a little more. This is how the soul breaks the spell. So, what is liberation? In these old ways, liberation is not an escape hatch. It's not a golden reward given after enough suffering. It's not even a destination. It's a return to the natural rhythm of the spirit, a return to harmony, a return to yourself, to the you that has always existed beneath the layers of identity and fear, the one that remembers the stars, the wind, the quiet voice that speaks in dreams. Everything is alive, everything has spirit, everything vibrates. When we live in harmony with those vibrations, when we sing our true note, we return to that sacred circle. We step into balance, and the cycle becomes something else entirely. It's no longer a wheel of suffering. It becomes a dance, a ceremony. Your soul did not come here by accident. It chose this life, this moment, this path. Not to be tested, but to be trusted. You were trusted with these lessons, this body, this breath. The old ones say we each carry medicine, something the world needs that only we can bring. And maybe your medicine is hidden beneath old wounds. Maybe it's buried under lifetimes of silence, but it's there. And every time you act with love, even when it's hard, that medicine rises to the surface. The path of awakening isn't a straight road. It's more like a spiral. We circle back again and again, but each time we rise a little higher, we see a little clearer, and eventually we realize we were never really lost, just remembering, just waking up. And when the soul finally remembers, even for a moment, the whole world feels different. Trees speak, winds whisper, time slows down, and life becomes what it was always meant to be. Not a puzzle, not a punishment, but a prayer, a sacred journey home. Jung's archetypes. There are stories that live in your bones, stories passed down not through words, but through vibration, through feelings you've carried for lifetimes. They echo in your dreams, surface in moments of deep stillness, and rise when you're face to face with the same lesson again and again. This is not a mistake. According to the soul teachings of many Native American traditions, we come into this world not as blank slates, but as beings wrapped in a sacred agreement with the earth, the stars, and our ancestors. Life is a circle, not a line, and in that circle, every return holds a deeper purpose. In Lakota belief, the concept of Wakang Tanka, the great mystery, speaks to a divine intelligence that flows through all things. It's not something outside of us, but something we are part of. This mystery guides the cycles of nature, the movements of animals, the rhythm of the seasons, and also the return of the soul. To be born into a certain family, a certain land, with certain wounds and certain strengths, is not chance. It's part of a greater design, and that design often brings us back to the same energies until we learn how to move with them instead of against them. The soul doesn't return to suffer, it returns to remember. And here's where it becomes powerful, because this remembrance often comes through symbols, dreams, patterns, and even synchronicities. Carl Jung called these recurring patterns archetypes. He believed that deep inside the collective unconscious of humanity live universal characters and stories: the mother, the shadow, the warrior, the healer. Each of these holds a key. Each is a mirror reflecting a hidden part of yourself. If you've ever felt like you're playing out the same role in different forms, always the fixer, the outcast, the teacher, the seeker, that's not your imagination. That's an archetypal pattern asking to be seen with new eyes. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." But once you begin to recognize the pattern, you gain the power to choose differently. Now imagine your life not as random chaos, but as a carefully woven story, built from ancestral threads and energetic echoes. That heartbreak, it wasn't a failure, it was a sacred mirror. That sudden success that seemed to come out of nowhere. Perhaps it was the blooming of a seed your soul planted long ago. In Native American spirituality, the past is not behind us, it walks beside us. The ancestors are not gone, they are present, whispering through signs and guiding us through dreams. When we bring together Jung's archetypes with these indigenous teachings, something magical happens. We start to see that the soul's journey is not linear, but spiral. We don't just move forward, we circle back again and again to the same truths. But each time we return, we meet them with more awareness, more heart, more power. And here's the secret. Those old roles, those wounds, those karmic patterns, they aren't here to define you. They are here to awaken you. They are invitations. They are the cosmic GPS that leads you back to your soul's original intention, the one you made before you were born. The one that says, "I came to remember who I truly am. I came to walk in beauty. I came to heal, and by healing, help others remember their own light." When you begin to live with this kind of awareness, something inside shifts. You stop running from the pattern, you sit with it, you speak to it, you ask it, "What are you really trying to show me?" And more often than not, the answer comes, not in words, but in symbols, in a recurring dream, in a hawk circling overhead, in a child's question that hits you like lightning. in the sudden tears you cry during a song you've heard 1,000 times. This is how the soul speaks when it's ready to wake up. In Cherokee tradition, there is the story of the two wolves. One represents anger, greed, and fear. The other stands for peace, compassion, and truth. And the one who wins is the one you feed. But what if the two wolves are also two sides of the same coin? What if the angry wolf shows up again and again, not to destroy you, but to remind you of what you haven't healed? Jung might say that the wolf is your shadow, a rejected part of yourself asking to be loved back into wholeness. The moment you stop pushing these patterns away and instead welcome them with curiosity, the great reversal begins. The energy shifts. You no longer see your life as something happening to you, but through you. And that's when the ancestral weight begins to lift. That's when the karmic winds change. That's when the symbols turn into guidance and the struggle becomes sacred. Tesla once said, "If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." What he didn't say, but what your soul knows, is that these frequencies also live within you. You are a field of living stories, vibrating in rhythm with the past and the future. And every time you choose love over fear, presence over reaction, trust over control, you tune your soul to a higher note. So now, as we prepare to go deeper into this journey, take a moment to honor the ancient patterns moving through your life. Don't shame them. Don't rush to escape them. Instead, offer them the sacred attention they've been waiting for. The ancestors are listening, the archetypes are awake, and your soul is ready, ready to rise, ready to return, ready to remember. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.